Hi, my name is Roshan C. Evans, and I want to address a few things. And that's because I know and I understand that my Facebook, my Instagram, my YouTube channel, my social media in general, it can be quite serious often. And people tell me all the time to lighten up, to enjoy life, but I mean, what do that really mean? What do lighten up mean? I'm lost every time I hear lighten up or stop being so serious. Relaxation for many is the perfect way to find yourself in a situation you really don't want to be in. I'm just saying, reality for me, it could be good at times, but that comes from paying attention to reality. You have to be serious and pay attention to life if you want to maximize your growth. But because you may be serious and may be paying attention to life, that doesn't mean you won't fumble, stumble, or fail. Because you will. If you live in this life, you will fumble, stumble, and fail at certain things. That don't mean give up. If you're not putting your best foot forward when you fumble, stumble, or make a mistake, then you can't learn from the fumble, stumble, or from when you fail and make a mistake. How could you learn from fumbling, stumbling, or making a mistake if it's nothing you pay attention to? If everything is a game to you, how can you learn from it? If you want to improve who you are, if you want to improve life around you, if you want to improve life for your future or your kids' future, then tighten up. Don't lighten up. Get serious and stop with all the gossip, the hate, and the backstabbing. They call too much relaxation laziness. Or maybe that's something I just say. I don't know. It's time to stop playing games. And it's time to get serious. If everything is okay with you, fine. Check on your brothers and sisters. Maybe everything is not okay with them like it is with you. Forget about how people appear to be doing from the outside looking in. Ask people, how are they doing? We don't always feel like we act. Many of us, we are hurting inside. Some of us may not want to admit that we are hurting inside. But in reality, not our fantasy world, but in our reality, we have a deep pain that cut right through our body. Many of us refuse to look into reality because it's painful. I get it. This is why they choose to play and joke about everything. Live in a fantasy world, the fantasy world of hiding your real feelings to the public. Then they turn around and put subliminals on social media instead of addressing situations head on and talking about it. We are living the fantasy world that prevents us from being honest with one another because we are afraid to offend. We are afraid of what others may think. We so stuck on the fantasy world to the point we can't even admit our wrongs. The stronghold the fantasy world have on most of us will prevent the world from saying sorry. And I mean, it'll prevent the word sorry from just coming out of your mouth, at any cost, by any means necessary. People are afraid to apologize for the mistakes they make, even when the mistakes they make could be devastating to someone else's life. Sorry is often off the table. It's not even an option. Our plans Our plans from the majority of us is to conceal our demons all the way to our grave. Some of you will actually succeed in concealing your demons all the way until the grave. Some of you won't be so lucky. And those of you that's not so lucky, have you thought about what you would do after the truth come out? Some of you better brace yourself, because you won't be able to hide in your fantasy world forever. When people look at me, Roshan C. Evans, they see success. They see happiness. They see smiles. They see a friend. Some may even see me as a family member. When people look at me, some see a warrior, a hustler. Some see me as someone that's been through hell, but on a journey to heaven. Other people may only see me as a sex offender. So I get it. My Facebook page, my Instagram, my YouTube channel, my social media, it just may not be the social media site or the YouTube channel or the Facebook or the Instagram page for everyone. I get it. My social media is not filled with fantasies of the world. This is the Facebook page of the raw realities of life and the things I see. I don't have time for the games. I don't have time to relax. I don't have time to lighten up. And I don't have time to sweep things under a rug that's affecting myself and others in devastating ways. I don't have time for the fantasy world. My social media is a cry out for help. Pure Justice is a cry out for help. The books I write, Stolen Identity and the Domino Effect, they are cries out for help. My intentions for being in law school in a year and a half is a defense mechanism, just in case my cry out for help goes humanly unanswered. In my reality, I make decisions based on my pain I've gone through. I make decisions based on the pain I'm going through. I don't want to see anyone go through the pain I've endured. My help for others is a cry out for help. And me telling my story is a cry out for help. I don't know how people only wish to talk about the popular problems or the popular issue. And I apologize that I wasn't one that inherited one of the popular problems and issues. But I have a problem and an issue that people need to be aware of. I have a problem and an issue that's been taking place since the beginning of time. But yet everyone likes to live a fantasy world, live in a fantasy land, and act as if it don't exist. And I don't understand. I just don't get the bandwagon justice politics. I just don't get the bandwagon justice game at all. My problem and issue shouldn't have to become a hot topic or popular in order for me to receive justice. I need justice, and I need it now. When I was 17 years old, a 17-year-old kid living in Flint, Michigan, thinking I knew more about life than what I actually did, living on my own or with friends or just in the streets, a female literally 1 year and 4 months younger than me. And when I say 1 year and 4 months younger than me, I mean literally 1 year and 4 months younger than me. And I make that point to give the exact age gap, because at times it will appear that we have a 2-year age gap until the few months pass, and then it'll appear that we have a 1 year age gap. So I just give the exact year and months of our age gap. So this female, literally 1 year and 4 months younger than me, snuck out of her home to come see me. When I called to see if she wanted to come hang out, I had no clue she snuck out. I called the young lady. I asked her if she wanted to get out. She said yes, gave me the address. I picked her up. I went. A friend of mine's at the time, named Tank, was the driver. Clyde sat in the passenger seat. I, Roshan C. Evans, sat behind Tank. While on the way, the young lady, 1 year and 4 months younger than me, she called my cell before we got to her house to tell me don't come to her house. She wanted me to meet her at the corner. So I said, okay. I advised her where we were, and I told her to come on. By the time we made it to the corner, she was there. I had no clue the girl just snuck out of her home. None. Not one. Not. A small piece of my mind thought that she snuck out of her home because she didn't say she did. She climbed into the back seat behind Clyde with me. Without a hi, a hey, or what's up. She went right in my pants, in my underwear. She was touching me. I began touching her. I went under her shirt, and I went in her bra, touching her boobs as she played with my private. When we arrived at the home I was living in, and which was my friend's, Darnell, the twin, Jones, baby mama house named Rosa that was out of town at the time. The girl that just snuck out of her home, the girl that just got out of the car from playing with my private, had walked in one of the homes I called my house as a kid. When she walked in, we, Tank, Clyde, and myself, we sat outside for a while. There were other people was in the house. Darnell's twin brother Terrell, Zante, Jerry, and a guy named Rashad. Yeah, I know, right? Rashad. Name almost the same exact as mine, but we are two different people. He's an older guy, about 2 years older than me, and his name is spelled different. But yes, we about have the same name, Roshan and Rashad. You had a few other people in the house. I can't particularly remember, but it was a house full of people. Then you had us three outside again. It was Clyde, Tank, and myself. And then you had Tony or Bub. He arrived a little bit later. And again, I was the youngest of the crew, besides the girl being 1 year and 4 months younger than me. We were the youngest too. Out of the crew, and out of the crew of the crew, all of us, we were... Okay, me and the girl was 1 year and 4 months apart, and then from me to the crew, everyone was at least 2, no more than 3 years older than me. But she went in the house, no big deal. She's not alone. By the time Tank, Clyde, and myself entered the home, she was nowhere in sight. So I asked, "Where's the girl?" They told me upstairs. So I went upstairs. I found her in my room in the bed, butt naked. So I did the same exact thing. I took off my clothes. I got in the bed with her, and I couldn't get an erection. I couldn't get an erection to save my life. I mean, it was just an uncomfortable feeling. We had people everywhere in the room with us. It was people standing behind the bed. It was people standing in the back of the room. It was people standing in the doorway. It was people peeping through the little vent on the floor. It was people everywhere. And I couldn't come to maintain my erection, and all I could do was pretty much ejaculate. The setting was so uncomfortable that eventually we ended up putting our clothes back on. So, on the way down the stairs, the girl was behind me. She followed me all the way down the stairs and began to talk to another young man with pretty much almost the same name as me. I ignored them. By the time I ignored them, while they were talking, they kept looking back and forth at me, laughing and giggling and smiling and joking. So I was like, whatever. Okay, I'm not gonna pay attention to them. And next thing I know, they ended up holding hands and walking upstairs together. They went back upstairs for some time. They had consensual sex, to my knowledge, and nothing still seemed out of the ordinary. They came back downstairs, and when they came downstairs, we still hung out. All of us, everybody, we still hanging. They particularly hung out for the rest of the night together, and I still ignore them. And by the time she was ready to go home, she let me know she was ready, and we took her back home. Tank, Clyde, and myself. Same order. Tank was driving. Clyde was sitting in the passenger seat. I was sitting behind Tank. She got in the car behind Clyde. And we took her home. On the way to the young lady's house, once again, before we got to the home, she said, "Don't take me home. Drop me off at the corner." Again, nobody's thinking anything about her sneaking out. Like, okay, she has to be dropped off at the corner. Drop her off at the corner. We pulled up to the corner. We dropped her off. And she got out the car. And when she got out the car, she actually went in a direction that was not in the direction of her home. Okay. We pulled off. I don't know where she went, what she was doing, or what time she actually got home. But the next morning, Terrell, the twin, told me that the police were looking for me for kidnapping. Now, after we dropped off the young lady, me, Tank, Clyde, everybody, we all dispersed and mostly went over to the twins' grandparents' home because their mother had just got out of prison and they wanted to give her a special Christmas, and they wanted to cook for her, they wanted to see her, they wanted to hang out with her because they hadn't been around her in quite some time because she's been in prison. So we all left, went to the grandparents' house, and the only one who stayed at the house was the twin Terrell. So a few hours later, when he came to the grandparents' house and he told me that the police was looking for me for kidnapping, I thought he was playing. I thought he was joking. It didn't seem like he was for real. It was like, Roshan, the police, they are looking for you for kidnapping. And it was like, yeah, okay, I didn't think anything of it because I know no one was kidnapped. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. He like, no, for real. And I'm like, yeah, okay. He like, okay. I'm like, all right. He like, all right. And it was like that, it was like, okay. It was like, I didn't hear any severity in his voice to tell me like, hey man, police really looking for you. Like, this is serious. So I continued to live my life, and a few weeks later, or a little time later, I should say, I bumped into my assistant wrestling coach over at McDonald's in Flint, Michigan, and he said, "Roshan, what have you got yourself into?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He like, "You know what I'm talking about." And I'm like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." He say, "You know what I'm talking about." And I'm like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." And he told me about the situation from the female, but this time the charge changed from kidnapping to rape. So now I knew that the twin was actually telling the truth, and the police had come looking for me for kidnapping that night, which blew my mind because I know nobody was kidnapped and nobody was raped. So I tell my assistant wrestling coach everything that happened from the beginning to the end. I told him how I called her. I told him how, she gave me the address to pick her up. I told him how before we arrived at the girl's home, she called the cell phone, said don't come to the house, meet her at the corner. I told him how when we met her at the corner, she got right in the car, went straight in my pants. I went under her shirt. We was touching each other. I told him how we went back to the house and how she went upstairs and I was hanging outside with the fellas and we was talking. I told him about when I got to the house and I was looking for her, couldn't find her. They told me she was upstairs. I told him how when I went upstairs, she was butt naked in my bed. I told him how I took my clothes off and did the same thing she did and got in the bed with her and attempted to have sex with her. And I also advised him how I couldn't maintain an erection, get it hard enough, and all I could do was ejaculate. I told him about all the people in the room around the bed, looking through the vents, looking through the door, standing in the doorway. I told him how we put back on our clothes, went back downstairs. I told him how she left me pretty much for the night to hang out with one of the older guys. I told him everything in full detail. And he told me to write a written statement and turn myself into the police station the next morning. So instead of going straight home and writing a written statement, I called the girl because I hadn't talked to her since. And when I called her, she answered the phone. And she answered the phone, it was like she was at some type of party. I hear the music in the background and, she had this high enthusiasm voice. It was just like so much excitement. And it was just like, it was a fun time over at her house. And as soon as she heard my voice, she wouldn't speak to me. And I'm left on the phone calling her name, listening to her breathe because she wouldn't respond. So I hung up. I called the girl back from a different cell phone. She answered the phone once again, high enthusiasm, music in the background, but wouldn't speak once she heard my voice. All I can hear her doing is breathing in the phone. I did it again. Same deal. Answer the phone, high enthusiasm, music in the background, hear my voice, wouldn't speak. All she would do is breathe. So I ended up writing a 16-page statement, writing everything that happened in full detail, and I turned myself in the morning. The police, they read it, and I didn't get arrested. They let me go and disregarded it as what I thought to be an angry parent case. They did give me a court date. And I didn't understand why I had the court date. But I wasn't worried. I didn't think there was anything to get in trouble for because nothing happened. Mentally in my mind, I laughed at the court date. I knew as long as I cooperated and told the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God, everything would be okay. I went from one court date to the next, assuming that there was nothing anyone could do to me. And I figured I'll be fine. My friends asked me if I needed them to come to court with me. I thought everything would be fine. I didn't need them, or at least I thought I didn't need them or anyone, you know. It's like, why should I have them leave college to come hold my hand in the courtroom? Besides, nothing happened, and I literally was telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I thought I had everything under control until it was over. I had no clue as to what happened on any of my previous court dates outside of me signing papers and getting new court dates. You know what? I have to bag up. Because before I actually got or went to court my first day, I actually bumped into the girl at the Flint Genesee Valley Mall. And when I bumped into her, I seen her, and she didn't see me, so I called her name. And she didn't hear me, or didn't want to hear me, I don't know. But I called her name again, and when she turned around and seen me, she looked at me, turned off, and walked off real fast. So now she had me following behind her, calling her name. And she's just walking off really fast, and I'm behind her calling her name. And she went right by the exit like she was going to leave the Flint Genesee Valley Mall, and stopped before she walked out. When it was just me and her alone, she walked away from everybody, and she turned around, and she just bust out in tears. She like, I'm sorry. Roshan, I'm sorry. I don't know what to do. It's my mama. She won't listen to me. And it's like, I asked her, I said, well, why don't you just tell her the truth? And she said, I did, but she's not listening to me. And this was the last time me and this young lady spoke ever in life. Now I'm going to court thinking nothing's going to happen to me. I don't think there's anything that these people can do to me, because I know there is nothing that I could be charged for, or there's nothing that happened. I was highly mistaken. But out of all my court dates, I had no idea at the age of 17 of the paperwork I was signing from court date to court date. I just knew that I was going from one court date to the next. I didn't even know I agreed to anything in the court of law with a signature before May 27th of 2000 until I was well off in my 30s. Yep. Me just reviewing my paperwork and reviewing my past case, going through stuff, I realized certain things that I didn't understand then, and it's still a lot that I still don't understand now. But at the time, I thought everything was okay until May 27th, 2000. My lawyer pulled me to the side and told me that this is it. He said, this is it. It will be no more court dates. No one care about your not being guilty. No one care about what happened. No one care about what didn't happen. It's going to be guilty or innocent. That's it. No one care about anything else. And if you say not guilty, I was assured I would get 15 years in prison, and I was only 17 years old. I just couldn't do 15 years in prison. I wasn't going to do 15 years in prison. It's like, how can I do 15 years in prison and I'm only 17 years old? It's like, I just passed 15 years myself, and it seemed like it took me forever to get to 17, and that was a long time. So you want me to do this time again, but this time do it in prison? I can't do that. I couldn't imagine myself doing no time in prison. I couldn't imagine myself doing time in jail. And you talking about prison, the big house with bars and barbed wire and people that I will have to live with, all men, for 15 years. I couldn't do it. So, he told me guilty or not guilty. And he assured me of 15 years at the age of 17. He told me if I said guilty, I would walk out of the courtroom as a free man with 36 months probation and 6 months ankle monitoring. This is when I got scared. This is when I knew I was in trouble. I didn't know what to do. I had no one to look towards. I had no one to try to get answers from because I was in the courtroom alone by myself because I didn't think I needed anyone. They wanted me to lie on myself to avoid prison time. Or if I told the truth, I was going to go to prison for 15 years. My lawyer asked me, did I understand? I told him yes, I understood. I understood that if I didn't sign and agree to what the courts wanted me to agree to behind this angry parent that couldn't control her daughter, I would get 15 years in prison. I couldn't imagine doing 24 hours at the age of 17. They were talking about 15 full years. Again, that was my age again, plus 2. The judge asked me, guilty or innocent? It was hard for me to answer. I didn't want to admit any wrongdoing because there was no wrongdoing, none. It was a regular, normal day. But I had no choice. I tried to get eye contact with the girl, but she wouldn't look at me. I wasn't going to prison for 15 years. So I said guilty. My charge went from kidnapping to statutory. Even though the Michigan law states you can't legally have sex, any sexual contact unless you are 18 years of age, we both were under 18. Or if you are between the ages of 13 and 16, you must have a legal parent or guardian's consent. I was under 18 but over 16, and we are a year and 4 months apart. Neither one of us was legal age to have sexual contact. We were in the same age group. It wasn't my fault the girl snuck out of her home. Before the Judge Yu said my sentence of 36 months probation, 6 months ankle monitor, and then Judge Yu asked my lawyer, did he tell me I would have to register as a sex offender? My lawyer said, no, Your Honor. I didn't even know what a sex offender was. I never even heard the phrase sex offender. My lawyer briefly said, you will have to tell the police where you live for the next 10 years. That was it. And that was 20 years ago. I'm still on the sex offender registry list. Texas has me on the sex offender registry for a lifetime. I relocated from Flint to Texas. Now Texas refused to let me go. All because of a female sneaking out of her home that's 1 year and 4 months younger than me. All because of an angry parent. All because of a prosecutor that didn't want to lose a case. All because I was poor. All because I was a kid in the courtroom with no support. All because I am a black male in America. I know my problem may not be the popular problem to talk about, but it is a problem that needs to be talked about, addressed, and figured out. Again, my name is Roshan C. Evans. I am the falsely accused sex offender. I have to register in Texas for life as a registered sex offender. For an angry parent of a female that's 1 year and 4 months younger than me while I was 17 years old. We both mutually touched each other. We attempted to have sex. I couldn't maintain an erection. Since she failed in the 16 to 13, I was charged with CSC 4. That's criminal sexual conduct in the fourth degree. Statutory rape of a minor. We both were minors, but since I'm a black male in America, I'm here and she's not. If I was charged, we should have been mutually charged. The pain of being here right now, the pain of being a sex offender behind an angry parent, or a girl 1 year and 4 months younger than me, it hurts. And I wish to see this pain on no one else. And I wish to see no one else endure this pain.